Hey there guys, what's up? This video here is going to be a list of some of the things about the car that I really like after ownership of a year and a half now. I've had the car for a while, obviously, a year and a half, just under 8,000 miles now, and there's just things about it that you wouldn't pick up on a test drive unless you take like an extended test drive and fiddle with everything. But basically, I'm going to try to keep this shorter than usual just because there's obvious things about the car that I like that are, anybody would like. The performance of it. Obviously, I like that. That's why I bought the car. I bought it because it's got a 415 horsepower Corvette engine in it. So just other different things about it that, you might not know about. Maybe you're watching this because you just want to know what are some things that this guy likes. What do I like about the car? What are some things I might also like that I didn't know it had? And one of the first things I want to mention is the heads-up display, which obviously most people looking at this car, I would think, would know that the car has that because it's got a big, square cutout in the top of the dashboard that right when you walk up to the car and looking at it from the outside you can see. So, heads-up display. I love it. I don't know why every car doesn't have it. It's definitely a must-have in anything down the road in the future for me. I feel like if I ever replace this car, that's something I would greatly miss if the car didn't have it. But more specifically about this car is the screens, the menus you have. You can't see it right now because it's angled to look angled so I can see it from where I'm sitting, but the screen I'm on right now is speed and a G meter, which this is a four-door sedan. It's got a Corvette engine and it's got magnetic ride control, Brembo brakes. I mean, there's no doubt that Chevy meant that this thing is supposed to be a performance car, but reality of it is, looking at the car, it looks pretty mundane. Most people, accuse it of being a Malibu or an Impala, but the point is, you get a car like this and you got a G meter, so that's actually kind of cool. I think that's a kind of an awesome feature just for throwing it on the car. It doesn't really take anything away from it. It's cool. And obviously you get Dodge Chargers and stuff like that have all the performance pages linked into the dashboard, linked into the infotainment screen. But that's like expected with those cars. And this car, you don't really expect that. I wouldn't think, before I bought the car, I didn't even think it would have that, but it does. It's pretty cool. But taking it a step further, and it's only when you're on this screen, there's a shift light. So when you're driving aggressively or, sporting, racing, whatever, the heads-up display turns into, the speed's always there, but there's a sequence of arrows that are green, orange, and red that kind of pulsate from the outside in when you get closer to red line, and it all flashes once you get to red line. And I didn't know the car had that. I had no idea that this car had a shift light built into it, which is actually pretty freaking awesome. I used it during the half-mile race. It definitely helped out because, again, it's in the heads-up display. You're looking out the window and it's right in front of you. You can see it, and it's not like you get to be staring at it and focused on it. It's just it shows up, you see it, and you know when to shift. It's, obviously you can hear the car, you hear you're getting close to red line, but I just thought that was something really cool, and it's something you might not know about if you've got one of these. And obviously if you've got an automatic, I think those still have the paddle shifters, but in the manual car, that's kind of cool. So I'm pretty sure the automatics would have it. I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't know why they would deprogram that, but it should still be in there, I would imagine. So that's pretty cool. I like that feature a lot. And the other heads-up display screens are the speed and the outside temperature, and then the speed alone, and then the last one being the speed and a little tachometer. Now that one, honestly, I don't really use because it's not really precise. It's just a little bar, line display of where your RPMs are at. So truthfully, that one to me is kind of useless. I generally stick to the one with the G meter only because I kind of think it's cool. When you're going around turns, there's a little red bar and tells you how many G's, and kind of sticks on whatever the high number was for a little bit so you can see it, obviously, if you're paying attention to driving more than you are what your G's are. So it's kind of cool. But that I thought was something to point out because I did not know when I bought this car that it had the shift light and the G meter built into it. I just kind of passed that up when I was reading brochures and looking online. So kind of cool. Now another thing that this car has, it's kind of a neat feature again that I feel is Chevy, Holden, GM, trying to make sure that they put into it performance-minded things, but they don't come right out and tell you that they've got it in there. I mean, they do list it in the owner's manual, and that is something that people generally that own these cars know it has, but what I'm talking about is competition mode. Now, this car, being a 2015, has the magnetic ride control, and through that, I've got my 3 different suspension settings: Tour, Sport, and Performance. Well, the traction control button, by just hitting it once, turns traction control off. Now, wait a minute, hit it again, turns it back on. Holding it down for a couple of seconds completely disables traction control and the StabiliTrak. But the one thing it didn't do here, let's turn all that back on, is hit it twice, not super fast, but just hit it twice in a row. 1, 2. And now I'm in StabiliTrak competitive mode, and up in the right corner of my little display here where it was telling me what my suspension was in, now my suspension's in track mode, which I suspect is probably the same as performance mode. But it's neat that it's got this, because I have, driven this car aggressively around turns and done things where track mode is definitely a different animal than standard mode, because it does allow some slip, but it also is still there to catch you if you go too crazy. You're not going to spin out and hit anything, which, again, we're talking about a big, nearly 4,000-pound family sedan here, so it's not like you're ripping this thing around the Nürburgring. But if you should choose to do something like that, this car's got a setting that I think handles that pretty well. It's a nice little, not necessarily hidden, it's not like it's an Easter egg, but it's definitely something that I didn't realize the car had, and it's pretty cool. But the other factor with this is track mode, if you've got a manual, is how you access launch control, which, if you watch my video at the half mile of me racing one of the Volkswagen Golf Rs, it's the video that was shot from the point of view of the passenger in the Golf. You see my car to the right. Well, my car, that run, I use launch control. And what launch control does for this car is steering wheel pointed straight, clutch all the way to the floor, mash the gas. When you do that, it lets the RPMs kick up to 4,000, holds them at 4,000 RPM, and you just pop the clutch. And it mitigates wheel slipping and all that stuff pretty well, and you get a good launch out of the car, which, again, that's something that was not really, people talked about it when this car was 2015 was announced. There was people, yeah, I hear it's got a launch control. How does that work? And I will say I've driven other cars that have launch control, and they are adjustable in other cars. Like, you can change the RPM, but this car is 4,000 is it. That's what you get, and that's all you got. But I think it works pretty well. I mean, I have different tires in the car than the stock ones, but they hook up pretty well, and I had a blast using it at the track. I mean, you don't really use it on the street because, for one, it's illegal, but the other reason is just because there's no point. You're not racing anybody, so you don't need to have this perfect launch. But at the track, that was definitely useful and pretty cool, and I'm hoping if I make it to the drag strip yet this year to try it out there and maybe do some trial runs back and forth to see which way is better, me on my own or the launch control mode. So that's definitely something I want to try out when I take it to the track. All right, now here's another one here of a feature about the car that after ownership I've really started to like a lot. It's really just it's one of the things that when you drive the car, you realize, man, I really like this. And you drive a different car and it's not the same. That's all about the steering wheel. And this steering wheel in this car, it's not suede, it's just leather wrapped, but it's got good, areas here to hold. But me personally, here, this position, obviously you can't see it, but behind the wheel, there's kind of a little ridge. And I don't know how to explain it. Maybe like a video game controller, but your thumbs fit in there, and it is a really, really nice feeling 9 and 3 position in this car. And the steering wheel, it just feels good. The size of it, everything about it is perfect in this car. I mean, I have my Jeep Renegade, and the steering wheel is not the same, and you tell this car feels more performance-minded just from the way the steering wheel feels in your hands and the shape of it. And then also, obviously, the flat bottom, which is some people think is kind of gimmicky because that's like a race car thing, but I think it's kind of cool. It's a neat little feature. But the steering wheel in this car is really great. I do really like it. The buttons are easy to use. The cruise control, the radio controls, they're all simple right there. There's not any crazy extra buttons you don't need. There's nothing behind it. There's no volume and stuff like that, which my Jeep has. And it's nice layout, nice wheel. I really like the steering wheel in this car, and the steering itself too is pretty good for an electric steering system. The next thing about this car to mention, something I like about it that I kind of knew going into it but didn't realize the extent of it, and that is the attention it gets. Now obviously a lot of that is the color of the car, but it's not just that. It's the color of the car kind of attracts people to looking at it, and then once it's caught their eye, then they start questioning, well, what am I even looking at here? So this car, a lot of people, like I said earlier, think it's a Malibu or think it's a Impala, or they don't know what to think. They see it and they're like, I don't know what that is. Probably because they've never seen one before, because there's just not a lot of them out there. But for an example, yesterday I took a delivery for work somewhere, and I happened to be in this car. And the place I took the delivery to, the guy comes outside and he's, oh my gosh, what is that? Looking at it, checking it out, and I'm out here unloading 10 50-pound boxes by myself, and he's just gawking at my car, which I thought was fine. I didn't care. So he thought it was an Impala, and I was like, oh no, honestly, most people think it's a Malibu before they think it's an Impala. It's too big though. It's a much bigger car. Well, yeah, it is. It's a full-size sedan. So, he thought it was really cool. I'm a truck guy. I'm not really a car guy, but man, what is the name of that color? And I got to check this out when I get home. Man, that thing's awesome. I love that thing. I love this car. And it's basically, this car attracts a lot of attention from car people, especially because they really know. Anybody who knows what it is, when they see it, they're like, wow, I never see these. That's kind of cool. It's not like a Corvette or a Camaro that you see every single day of your life, seemingly. So it definitely catches those people's attention. But the other thing it does is, I've had people who don't know anything about cars walk up to me and talk about it. Now, again, it's the color mainly, but young, old, women, men, doesn't matter. Everybody loves this thing, and it's kind of cool. So you go to a gas station and you got people staring at you, and a lot of times they walk up and they want to talk to you, and it's kind of a good feeling. I like that because I'm a car guy myself. I see other people with cool cars. I like to, even as simple as a thumbs up, but it makes me feel good when you come up and compliment me about my car. So it happens a lot. So if you wanted a car like this, to be low key, yes, it's low key because it doesn't really look the part of a sports car, but no, it's not so low key that people just turn their cheek at it and don't think anything about it. So that's something that I couldn't have guessed when I bought the car, that I would have as much attention that I get with this thing. And the last one here is going to be something that I actually complained about in my previous video of things I didn't like about the car, and that would be the driver aids and the assist things that are in the car. Now, I know I complained about them just because I don't use them, and I feel like they're kind of a burden to try and use them because they don't do 100% of the job. I'm talking about like, the forward collision alert, it doesn't stop the car. You have to stop the car. The lane keep assist, it doesn't keep you in your lane. It just beeps at you. You have to keep you in your lane. And then the parking sensors, when you're getting out of a garage or something, it looks for stuff around you, and it's kind of annoying. But still, I think it's cool this car has it, because all those features are stuff that cars of the future, newer cars, are all getting. And for GM to do all that with this car is kind of neat. It's like they threw everything at it, everything they could. I mean, the heads-up display, the park assist, which I posted another video the other day of showing how that works, because again, I've had people ask me, how does the car park itself when it's a manual? So, well, you don't realize I still have to manage the gas and brake and clutch, but and shifting, but it just does the steering for you and senses where you're at. But the point is, the car has a lot of these features that are great, which some people fault the car for that. They say that, Chevy should have left out a lot of that crap and lowered the price. It's too expensive. Well, I personally like that it's got all these things because I'm the type of person who likes a car that is at the top of its segment of, or not the segment, but the top of its own line. You know, if I were to buy a Corvette, I wouldn't go out and buy a 1LT. I'd buy a 3LT. But in all reality, I'd actually probably buy a 2LT because the stuff the 3LT adds is a little excessive. But what I'm trying to get at here is there's things about it that I like that it comes standard with that certain cars don't come with, and this thing gets compared to them, and oh, it's overpriced. It's $45,000 to $50,000. Well, now they're $50,000. You know, that's great. As if I'm going to rear end somebody and there's nobody close in front of me. Anyway, let's turn that off. Must have left that on from the other day. So where is it going here? The assist features and all that stuff. Now, people wrongfully accuse this car of being too expensive because, oh, you can get an RT Scat Pack and, you know, that starts at 39 grand and this thing's 10 grand more, and why would you do that? You get more power in the other car too. Well, it's a different car. It's a different package. It's a different level of equipment. So you talk about a $39,000, $40,000 Dodge Charger RT Scat Pack, and you're talking about a car that has cloth, a car that has the small navigation screen, a car that doesn't have Brembos, doesn't have the better suspension that the SRT has. So there's a lot of things about the Scat Pack that don't really compete with this car. So it's an unfair and unjust comparison because I guess if you're really after, I want 4 doors, I want a lot of horsepower, and that's all I want. Well, then fine, buy a Scat Pack. It's a different car. But you want some of the luxury items that this thing comes with, well, now you're talking about an SRT or a Scat Pack with some options thrown at it, which is closer to this price range. And I would argue then that if you're someone like me who demanded a stick shift, that you can't get that out of Dodge. They're not doing it. So it's pretty much this or a BMW M5 if you want a stick shift high horsepower sedan. And obviously the BMW M5 is a heck of a lot more money than this thing is. So the point I'm getting at is this car is a great package for the price point, in my opinion. It's a lot of features that, yes, some people don't need. I myself don't use some of the stuff, but it's nice to know it has it because for resale value down the road, just generally keeping up with current times of its competitors and what they all have, it's nice knowing this car has these things and, you know, not left wanting, well, what if? So that's something that was definitely a nice selling point on this car when I bought it, and I still do like it to this day, that it's got some features to it that the Dodge Scat Pack doesn't have. And that, honestly, that car got released or announced right after I ordered this thing, and I'll admit I did think for a second that maybe I should have bought one of those, but you know, ultimately I'm happy with my decision. I love this car. I wouldn't trade it in for any of them, maybe a Hellcat, but I wouldn't trade it for any of the Chargers. So I'm gonna be keeping this for a while. All right, one more thing about the car that I really liked that I wasn't aware of or didn't think about was the interior space of the car. The day I went and picked it up, I had my daughter with me, who at the time was year and a half old, and obviously still in a rear-facing car seat. So went to pick the car up, and we brought her van there, and I left it there, put the car seat in this car, and went home. Well, her car seat in our van meant the person sitting in the passenger seat would have to sit, you know, kind of close up to the dashboard. And that was, you know, kind of strange in that, because it's a minivan. You think there's tons of space. Like, why are you eating the dash? But this car, put the car seat back there, moved the passenger seat to where it would, you know, need to be to accommodate somebody. And it surprisingly had a lot of space for a 4-door sedan. I mean, I didn't really think this car would be as large as it is on the inside, but I'm 6'3". I have 2 brothers of the same size as me. My dad's 6'5". All 4 of us have ridden in this car and gone places together, you know, gone out to lunch or whatever, and it's not terrible. I mean, obviously like a S-Class or something would be better, but I really didn't expect this car to be as large as it is on the inside. So it's actually really surprisingly spacious and roomy and comfortable too. These seats are great. You know, they're adjustable a couple different ways, heated and cooled, and It's just they're really comfortable. Long rides, I love them. So that was something else that I didn't know about when I bought the car that I didn't realize I'd fall in love with. But sitting in here, it's a nice place to be. It's a nice interior. I like it a lot. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's not that great, you know, you could have done better, foreign brands are better, blah blah blah. But I personally think it's great because it doesn't look like the rest of the brand. A lot of times you get into a car and you look at the dashboard and you think, wow, this looks like something I've seen before. And you know, like we had Chevy vans at work, and my brother's old C6 Corvette. It's like, oh, that looks eerily similar to our van. So, you know, Chevy, I think, has come a long way with that. These interiors are different. My brother's C7 Corvette, totally different layout, but it looks unique to the Corvette, and it's great. It's good that they did that because it puts some separation so that way people aren't thinking, well, this looks like my uncle's Silverado. But that's definitely really cool that the interior of this car is unique to it, and you know, you just don't really think about it until you own the car for a while and you start using stuff, and the ergonomics and where things are is definitely well laid out and well planned.